Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to show just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Lil Cross, musician and business owner. Please enjoy Lil Cross. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I'm here with Lil Cross, musician and business owner. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Again, thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to dive into your creative world and hear about creativity and wherever that takes us. But before we get there, why don't you take a couple of minutes and let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
So yeah, again, my name is Lil Cross. I'm a musician from the Tampa, Florida area. I'm also a business owner. I'm 21 years old. Been making music my whole life. Opened up a business called Dead to the World with me and my partners who go by Gumby, DTW, and Ethan Marino. And what we do is we host events. We own an event venue and recording studio in Branson, Florida, where we host events and we also do studio time. And then we mainly focus on artist consultations as well, specifically teaching artists how to monetize their music and create full-time careers out of it by creating offers to sell, whether that be coaching programs. We also specialize in event hosting and stuff like that.
Awesome. And something like totally musicians need, right? No one knows how.
That's why I do it. I feel like it's a different day and age where like musicians can empower themselves instead of relying on labels and managers that take from them. So that it's a big passion of mine to be able to like help recreate the industry to where musicians have more power and control over their own art.
Nice. I mean, it's like, it sounds very entrepreneurial, like supporting musician entrepreneurs to take ownership and have that capacity to share their art and work with the world.
Absolutely, because that's the thing is you have to take on the business side. Like if you want to learn how to get paid for what you do without giving up the rights to someone else, you're going to have to learn the business side of things that they'd be doing. But I mean, that's awesome. That just empowers you. It gives you more knowledge and it gives you, the ability to make more money and control, your art and the way that, you want to put it out to the world.
Mm-hmm. How did you get into, I mean, I think a lot of musicians are in it because they love music, they love the creation, the process, and many creatives aren't that savvy in business. So what was that journey for you? Were you someone who has always had that business mind and been the musician, or did you have some bad experiences and get into it that way?
I mean, a little bit of both. I have always been musician minded, been making music my whole life, and I've always also been entrepreneurial minded. I guess it just took me a long time to combine the two. And I think that's because of the misconceptions of the industry, because of like the lack of kind of people who are doing what I'm doing and like exposing the information and letting artists know that they can empower themselves. And I actually I got kicked out of college, and the only thing I could do to support myself, and that was when I was 17, and the only thing I could do to move out of my parents' place and support myself was the momentum I had with music. Now that I was no longer able to get my college education, and that's when, I utilized that and I kind of like paid for some mentorship for some business courses that it's not like college, it's not like 4 years, it's like me empowering myself, right? And figuring out like, okay, I want to do what I love doing for a living. I have the business savviness to be able to do it, but not the knowledge in terms of how to apply it. So let me go out there and figure out how to do it myself,
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's awesome. I don't know a lot of 17-year-olds who would have taken that kind of ending a college career and
pivoting and doing something. I mean, that takes a lot of creativity and a lot of like passion and trust and
And those are some things I want to talk about today. Like talking about creativity and utilizing it not just to make music or to run a business, but to like empower yourself.
yeah.
Um, and I honestly think that's the best thing for me. Like if I didn't get kicked out, I'd still be in college right now. And like as of like 2022, in our second year of business, we generated six figures. It's like I didn't need that college education. You know, what I needed was to empower myself.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. School isn't for everyone. I mean, I went to a lot of school and for me it was great and it's not for everyone. And I totally believe that. So good for you for finding your path and making it work. And I'm so curious, what does it mean to you to be creative?
Um, well, I think what it means is turning nothing into something. Um, I think it's seeing things for what they could be and not what they are. Um, like and I've heard you mention on a podcast before, like limitations spark creativity, and that's really what I mean. Like I think like I guess a good example would be like my music videos, right? Like most mainstream and popular artists, they have budgets of like 10, 20, $50,000 to be able to create a great music video. And as someone who's aspiring to get to that level, it's like I may have a budget of 500,000, 1,500. I have to be able to utilize less resources to be able to make something that's just as good, if not better. And what that does is it forces me to use what I have and rely more on my creativity to actually create something that um, is just as good as that content. And that's helped me a lot. Like it's helped me be able to put work out there and not have that kind of like push behind it and still be able to see success. Like a specific video I'm thinking about is like a video called Bookies, and I probably spent like had like an $800 budget, and most of that went to recording the video and having it edited. And then I have a couple $100 left over, and like one of the main shots for the video was like where I'm in this room and the room is completely blue and all the lighting is blue, and my hair is dyed blue and I have a black outfit. And the angle we got of that, and like the outfit and the lighting and the decorations, like it was something that it looked extremely professional. Like it looked like a video that did have that budget behind it. But I spent like $200 on like blue poster boards, and like we had to figure out angles so where you couldn't see it was poster boards, and it looked like it was the color of the walls. And then like instead of like buying a new outfit for the video, I had to like say, okay, like how aesthetically can I get it across with what I have? So it was more about colors and like not having a cool outfit in terms of like the brands that I'm wearing or even like what kind of clothes they are, but how the colors clash, like utilizing the resources I have to make some. And then at the end of that, like I think that video came out better than if I had the budget and I had relied on the easy things to be able to make something cool instead of using my creativity to like, you know, take what I have around me and make something that is like way beyond the sum of its parts. Um, I know I'm kind of rambling. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It totally does. No, I love it. I mean, I think oftentimes when we're given, I mean, I might say like a blank piece of paper and told like you can do anything, that is really challenging for people. But if you say like here's a blank piece of paper and you can only draw on it in black, that's enough of those limitations to be like, oh, okay, now I have some structure that I can go in. So having a budget structure or a color structure or something that gives you a little bit of limitation, but within those boundaries, your creativity can really come alive. And it sounds like it totally did in this video. And that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that's just something I like that. I like seeing things for what they could be and not what they are. I think
Mhm.
that's the best way to put it when it comes to, what it means to be creative.
Yeah. So, like working with artists in that, coaching artists on how to monetize their music or, you know, do the things that you're doing, what are some of those foundational pieces that are so important for artists to develop?
Um, to develop from a creative perspective or develop just in terms of artistical skills?
Why not both? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, from a creative perspective, I mean, you have to, like empower yourself, like I said, and you know, it's just like encouraging people to find creativity in themselves, right? So I think a few things when it comes to that. I think people first of all have to empower themselves and they stop blaming. People have varying degrees of creativity naturally, sure, but I think that everyone has the ability to be creative, and I also think that hard work beats talent any day of the week. So if you
Mhm.
are naturally less creative than someone else but you work harder at being able to express that creativity, you're going to become more creative than them. So I think it's about empowering yourself first of all, and if you're not as creative as you want to be, taking responsibility for that.
Mm.
um, and then the next thing I think is necessary is like, okay, well, first of all, you're gonna have to motivate yourself because it's hard. Like you're gonna have to fail a lot of times before you learn. And even like me, someone who I think is naturally creative and has a knack for music, like the music I was making when I started sucked. You know what I mean? So you can't be afraid of failing. Um, and you have to put your 10,000 hours in, and then that requires a lot of motivation, like I said. And I think for me, motivation for creative people should be like the eagerness to prove yourself. And that's a little bit, I kind of let my ego um motivate me, if that makes any sense. And eagerness to prove yourself both to yourself and both to other people. So like if you're someone who wants to become more creative and you have empowered yourself and acknowledge that that's your own responsibility, there's a reason why you desire that, right? And then that should be your motivation, like your eagerness to prove to yourself that you can actually become someone who's creative. And
Yeah.
also to prove to other people, that's something that I like struggle with a lot, is like confidence in myself, but still continuing to push and try and get better because I don't feel like I'm being recognized enough by other people. um
Mhm.
and then another way to flip that is the fear of failure, like the fear of like, what if I don't do those things and I don't become as creative of a person as I can be? Once you've empowered yourself and made that your own responsibility, you have no one else to blame other than yourself. So that fear of failure, of if you don't do this, it's your own fault, you use that to light a fire under your ass and motivate you to prove to yourself that you can do it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, even in you just talking, I hear your motivation and the fire that you light under yourself to keep going and prove it to yourself that you can do it. And that fear of failure, I mean, I think you also said like you're going to fail. Like failure is a part of the process and the part of the experience. And it sounds like you have learned a lot from failing, and the motivation to like keep going after failure. Where do you find that motivation to keep going after failure?
it's it's unhealthy. Like I'm like on the other end of the spectrum, to where it's like I'm losing sleep because I haven't made the song sound as good as I want it to sound, and I haven't finished responding to my emails, and like, like and that's like, I'm extremely self-critical of myself, and like it's hard
Yeah.
for me to give advice in that area because I kind of need advice in the opposite, like how to like relax a little bit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because and I think it comes down to an ego thing, and I think it comes down to a pride thing, like knowing how much I'm capable of, and
Yeah.
knowing how far I am from achieving that, the impact I want to have on people's lives, and the recognition that I want to receive for having that impact, how far away no matter how successful I am right now, how far away I am from that end goal is like there's no way that I can wake up and not be like, you know, just crazed, and like there's so much that needs to be done in order for me to get there, like that, like I can't waste a damn second of my time.
Yeah. Totally. I was just talking to someone about how kind of the obsessiveness that creatives can have. We can, the perfectionism, obsessive, just it's so a part of us. But on that flip side, we're also really sensitive people. And so things can really impact us. And so finding that balance of
Well,
how,
letting it impact you and letting it channeling it as motivation rather than letting it discourage you. Like, I
Yeah.
think you don't have to be sensitive. I think you have to use that sensitivity to be like, fuck, man, they're right. Let me prove them wrong. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like,
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I think the sensitivity piece that I'm thinking of is like life events impact creative people in different ways than someone who isn't in touch with that creative side of themselves, where, you know, world events propel creative artists to do something about it or take that experience that they've had and turn it into something to share with others. So that's the piece of sensitivity that I'm speaking of. So that obsessiveness, the sensitivity that can be really overwhelming, and how do we find that balance between all of it and still have a life and still, like, you know, do all the things you have to do, like laundry and cooking and, you know, right?
I guess it all I mean, I guess that's subjective, right? Like for me, again, I feel like I'm far on the spectrum to where like I'm okay with you know, sacrificing a lot
Yeah.
to deal with all that overwhelm and to work through it and to progress through it. And that's not something that I would advise for everyone. Like staying up 18 hours on end, working on music and working on business and not taking a day off for weeks straight. Like I definitely think it is important for people to find that balance and get away. I mean, for me, travel helps me do that a lot. Like it helps me be able to maintain the amount of work that I'm doing if I'm you know, frequently switching up the environment that I'm doing it in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you sound like creativity and music has been such a huge part of your life, but like, what's your earliest memory of being creative?
So yeah, I mean I've been creative my whole life, like for as long as I can remember. Um, you know, like I guess like examples of that would be like I think the first song that I wrote was in like second grade. And like around that time as well, I was like I was playing the drums to my favorite songs and the piano and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I mean I think it's more instinctive and I think it's less of like because like I said, I think everyone's creative. I think I just naturally use that throughout my life just based on instinct and not really based on like a conscious effort, you know?
Yeah. And in kind of living creative life, does that transfer into other areas of your life? Like in relationship or in, I don't know, other opportunities? I'm trying to think like,
Everything. It's like every challenge that I face it with a creative solution in mind, like utilizing my creativity to be able to work through it, as well as like I said, that eagerness to prove myself and that eagerness to like, all right, let's get this, you know, let's get over this obstacle. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, I can't think of anything in my life that I don't face creatively. Like you're talking about relationship problems, like when I'm emotional, when I'm feeling some type of way about what's going on in a relationship that I have with someone, I'll best articulate my feelings by writing them in a song. And then that gives me the ability to like read over what I said, to understand myself more. It gives me the ability to like walk back in that situation and communicate with the person I'm in a relationship with rationally because I've expressed maybe some of the irrational thoughts that, you know, I had based on a high level of emotion, right? And then even having a finished piece of work, like recording that song and mixing and mastering it and turning something that was a negative thing into now something that's useful and now that can positively impact both me and other people. I mean, every problem that I face creatively. And if I didn't express my thoughts and do that kind of stuff before communicating and trying to solve problems within a relationship, I'd be a lot less good at it. Not to say that I'm great at it as is.
totally. I mean, but I just love that journey you just took us on about like recognizing a challenge and needing to kind of verbally vomit something out alone and then process that for yourself before going back and having a, as you said, more rational conversation with someone where you can express yourself at a more regulated emotional state? Because
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, that's such a creative journey to go on, and like incredibly therapeutic. So
absolutely. And I mean, there are songs that I write and they just kind of write themselves, like not to sound corny, but they, you know what I mean? Like I'm writing so fast and I'm not processing what I'm writing as I'm writing it. And then
yeah.
I kind of go record it and then I mix and master and then I listen to the song 6 months later and I'm hearing stuff and realizing stuff about myself the 100th time listening to the song.
Yeah.
And even like just like not even from what I'm saying, but like why did I feel that way to make that be the first thing that comes out of my mouth without any thought. You know what I mean? Like it teaches me, I could go back to songs I recorded years ago and still be curious about what I meant when I said that and what made me feel that way. And it really helps me just, um, to the best of my ability, keep progressing as a person and understanding more about myself, how to regulate my emotions, how to express them properly and healthily and stuff like that.
I love it. I mean, what you're really talking about is like how creativity fosters growth. And I just made an Instagram reel about this today. So snaps for you for bringing it here.
Love it.
Yeah, that, you know, growth is, we're all looking to grow. I mean, okay, we may not all be, but many of us are looking to grow and change in our lives. And what you're saying is like creativity 100% does that for you.
Absolutely. And that's again like it, we all should be trying to grow. And if we are, then we should be making conscious efforts to do these things. So it's not just about acknowledging like that it can do that, but it's also again about empowering yourself
Mhm.
and taking responsibility to make a conscious effort, you know, to use it to grow.
Yeah. Ah, I love it. This is awesome. I mean, working with artists and other people, I imagine you come in contact with people who don't feel like they're creative or struggle with creativity. How would you encourage others to find that creativity in their life?
It's all about what I said earlier. It's all about, I think the process starts with empowering yourself and taking responsibility, understanding that hard work beats talent. No matter where you're at right now, you can become better than everyone else just by working hard enough at it. Take responsibility, empower yourself, um, get over the fear of failure, get over the, hey, like I'm gonna have to suck at this at first. Suck it up, go through that process. And if you need motivation along the way, go back to why you're doing this in the first place, the desire to prove to yourself and to other people, you know, the desire to grow, the
Mhm.
desire, like what we were talking about earlier, like being able to have an impact on like your own health so that you could treat other people better and have a better impact on, you know, the health of the people around you. You know, take responsibility for that and use the outcome of motivation, use the outcome of what happens if you do those things as motivation. And if that's not good enough, like I said, the fear of failure, that's what drives me, like knowing that, like thinking about past situations where I've hurt people and thinking
Mhm.
about what happens if I don't solve those toxic traits about myself. I'm
Mhm.
gonna end up hurting people I love again. And that fear of what happens if I don't do it is
Mhm.
sometimes a lot more motivating for me than thinking about what things are gonna look like when I do.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, it sounds like you've done a lot of like reflection on your own life, and that really propels you forward to not repeat patterns or not, you know, continue the cycle that you participated in previously. And for someone who's 21, man, props to you. Not
I got a long way to go. Don't.
don't we all though? We all have a long way to go, but for someone who is on this journey now, like that is amazing. So
I really
congrats to
appreciate it.
that.
That means a lot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this has been so great. I just have one last question. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
Mm, that's a great question. Um, I mean, I feel like in my most creative moments, I think, are my happiest moments, and it just feels like being in that state of flow, like where everything, from the lamps in the room to the posters on the walls, like everything is where it needs to be. And I finally reached a place where there's a balance between all the creative thoughts that I'm having, all the stress and background noise in my life. Like I'm just finally at a place where I'm in tune with everything while simultaneously being in tune with just the task at hand. And like those moments where I'm just like in the studio with my friends, and it's like everything is where it needs to be, and every little interaction, every little joke that we make, you know, incorporates itself into a line in the song. You know what I mean? It just seems like everything is in place and everything is where it needs to be. And it's hard to get to those places. It's like, a lot of times creativity is just like, people aren't around, like I'm in between meetings, like let me just write a song, while I have the time. But in those moments where I'm being the most creative, I just feel the most happy. I just feel the most at home. I feel the most comfortable to be vulnerable. And I just feel like I'm in that state of flow where it's like everything is in alignment, both mentally and physically around me.
Amazing. That's awesome. This has been so great. If people want to learn more about your music, about your business, how could they go about doing that?
So I want to say a couple things. So our business is Dead to the World. Dead to the World. I have two business partners, Ethan Marino and Gumby DTW. We all have music together. So you can look up like Dead to the World on any streaming platform to find the music that we all make together. Those are my two business partners. I also have an employee that I want to shout out, Young Taylor Chulo, who's an employee of ours and does a lot of great work for us. And him, along with like 5 to 8 other people, are all a part of not Dead to the World as a business, but Dead to the World as a collective of artists. So we all hang out together, we all make music together, and we post music as a collective. So you can find that music and find those people on Dead to the World on all streaming platforms. And then our website is www.dtwheadquarters.com. I think I mentioned earlier, we specialize in artist consultations, teaching artists how to monetize, recording, mixing, and mastering, and event hosting. So if any of those things interest you, you can contact us through our Instagrams. My Instagram is at CrossDTW, CrossDTW. Ethan's Instagram is at EthanDTW, and Gumby's Instagram is at GumbyDTW. And then our company Instagram is at dead.to-the-world.
Awesome.
And you can also look us up on streaming, Ethan Marino on streaming, Gumby DTW on streaming, and Lil Cross on all streaming platforms.
Sweet. I will put much of that in show notes so people have easy clickable links to find y'all. And thank you again for taking the time to chat with me. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, I really appreciate you letting me on.
Of course.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.